So today we're working on a 2018 Dodge Ram with a 6.7 liter Cummins engine, and we need to replace the DEF pump for the diesel exhaust fluid. Now this is located ahead of the fuel tank underneath the truck, so we've currently got the truck up on the hoist. You can see we've got the complete canister housing here. There's no ring here, electrical connector, and also the connector to the line. So first thing we're going to do is drop this plate, and then we'll access the pump. We're going to drop it down. Obviously we're going to lose some fluid at that time, but let's go ahead and remove this cover. I see it's stuck underneath another frame brace. We had to kind of slide that out of the way a little bit. Now the next thing we're going to do is take a pick and or a small screwdriver, or release the little lock right here, which is going to allow us to depress the tab and disconnect the electrical connector. But you'll see that DEF fluid is primarily made up of urea, which is very caustic. So the last thing we want to do is have some of that stuff splash on this, corroding these terminals. Service information tells us that if you get any DEF fluid on this, you're supposed to replace this harness. So what we're going to do right now is be a little more precautionary here. We've got a Ziploc bag, and we'll kind of wrap it around there and use a little bit of electrical tape to help seal it off so that we can certainly protect this connector. Now we're going to kind of tuck it out of the way as an additional step, but by doing this, we're not going to run the risk of getting any fluid on that. So we've kind of got it tucked up in here. Now the next thing we're going to do is release the locking tab on the line, and we will release it. And we're going to lose a little bit of fluid. So we've got a catch pan below us here. Once that's done, we've got the lock ring on here, which maybe many of you are familiar with when it comes to replacing a fuel pump on other vehicles. And so the proper way, we're going to use this to grab a tool, and we'll rotate that locking ring after this is off, and then we will drop this out of the vehicle. One thing to make note of here is when you're trying to disconnect the line, there's two white tabs that you'll notice. And so the key to releasing this is to squeeze those. And what that's going to do is actually expand the inside of it, the interlocking part. And so once you squeeze it, now you can slide it away from the unit there. So don't try and peel these up, simply squeeze them and slide them back. Now we've gone ahead and removed the ring. Now this ring was retaining and holding it in place, so we had to rotate it. We were able to drop the ring down. And then you can see we've got a bucket here. So this thing had about 2 gallons of DEF fluid in it yet. So we caught it. Didn't make too much of a mess here, but you can see we've got our old unit out. Now we've got our new unit, and we compare, make sure it's all the same. We've got the same locking tab here. It's oriented properly, and we're ready to install it. We want to make sure that this O-ring is seated properly though, because that's going to be key. We don't want any leaks. Remember, this is on the bottom of the tank, so we need to seal it up properly. We'll put the locking tab back on and make our connections, and we're ready to retest. We've got the unit installed. You can see the lock rings up in place. And so right now we're going to go ahead and connect the line. So we'll clip that back in place. Need to wiggle it a little bit there until we feel and hear a positive lock, so we know it's not going to pop off. One little tip here is, just like we had to squeeze it to remove it, we have to squeeze it to install it. So now we've got everything sealed up. We're going to go ahead and remove our plastic bag from the electrical connector. Now that's been nice and dry. And then we're going to go plug that back in. Get it clipped into place, and then we'll install the lock on that also, so it doesn't pop off. And then before we actually install our shield again, we're going to go ahead and add some fluid to the tank to make sure we don't have any leaks around our O-ring. and then we will put the cover back on and button it up. So now we've got the unit in. We've added a little bit of fluid, and obviously we didn't want to fill the entire piece up and then find out that there's a problem or something. So you can see we've got it. This thing had a half tank in it previously. Now it's reading pretty accurately about a quarter tank here. We've got no more warning messages. So we're gonna go ahead and top it off, cap the job, and then we're gonna take it for a test drive to verify that everything works properly. Now, some people will tell you to use a scan tool to run the self-test. That's always gonna be recommended and clear any trouble codes. But these things, because it's an electric pump, it will prime itself. Sometimes it may take a couple key cycles and maybe even a couple drive cycles. But hopefully now you understand what it takes to replace the DEF pump in a 2018 Dodge Ram 2500 with a 6.7 liter Cummins engine.